Hello, and welcome to One Cool Thing, PCMag's daily show where we show you one cool thing, which we are testing out here in the PCMag labs. And welcome to 2018. I am Sasha Segan, this is Jim Fisher, and our cool thing today is the Fujifilm X-E3 camera, which we will get to in a minute. If you folks are watching us live on Facebook, welcome to 2018. Please send us your New Year's wishes, comments, and questions in the comments field, and Social Jose will help take care of them. If you are watching us later on YouTube, perhaps in 2019, 2020, or even say 2024, try looking back on Facebook. Like and subscribe on YouTube, and look back on Facebook to see if we are still doing this show in 2024, and participate in the comments thread. We have a really cool looking, I feel like it's a very retro looking camera today, huh?
It is. Well, a lot of the Fujifilm X series have taken this retro look since it was introduced with the X Pro 1 way back 5, 6-ish years ago at CES, actually. So since then, they've really gone with this look. And actually, I should actually amend that and say, going back further to the X100, which this looks a lot like the X100 without the optical viewfinder. It's very much the same body size and style, but with interchangeable lenses.
Okay, so let me just show off some of the aspects of the body of this camera, and then we can get to the features.
Sure.
So on the front, so you said interchangeable lenses. Does it come with this lens?
No.
Okay.
It sells this for $900 as a body only. There is a kit lens option, which is the 23mm f2. This is the 27mm f2.8. They just didn't have one to send to me with this particular camera. The 23 f2 is a little bit longer. Probably juts out to about here, and does have a physical aperture ring, which most Fujifilm lenses do. The 27mm is the smallest, most compact lens in the series, and does not.
Okay, so on the top here, we have what look like single function dials for shutter speed and exposure compensation. Are those really single function?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, that is a Fujifilm trademark. Instead of having a mode dial where you select PA, S, or M, you select your mode based on whether or not you have your automatic shutter set, or if you have a fixed aperture set, if you have automatic aperture set. So it gives you the same shutter priority, aperture priority, or manual with either manual or auto ISO as you would with a traditional mode dial, but with discrete dials for each function.
And then on the back, we have a joystick, but it's not a touchscreen, right?
It is a touchscreen.
It is a touchscreen.
It is a touchscreen. You can disable the touchscreen. There's a little box to turn it on or off. You can tap to focus or tap to focus and fire. It doesn't tilt out.
Okay.
It's a fixed LCD, but it is a touchscreen.
Okay. Okay. And then we've got some ports in the side here. Where does the memory go?
In the bottom.
Okay. Okay.
With the battery.
And it's standard SD card?
Yes.
Okay. So how does this perform? We're comparing this, I guess, against, in general, what, Micro Four Thirds cameras?
And well, Micro Four Thirds is a specific lens mount system. Other mirrorless cameras in this price range include the APS-C system from Sony, the E mount system, which the closest model is the A6300, which is our editor's choice at this price point because it has a few things this camera does not do. It doesn't have the same retro style, but this is not weather sealed, whereas the A6300 is. Other than that, they're both 24 megapixel image sensor, APS-C. This is an X-Trans sensor, which is a Fuji design. The Sony is a Bayer sensor, more traditional color filter pattern. That's really a personal preference. With 24 megapixels of resolution, I find the differences to be pretty negligible. Fujifilm has some cool, if you shoot JPEGs, it's got some cool film emulation modes, including classic chrome for color, Velvia for oversaturated colors, and Acros for black and white with selectable yellow, red, or green filters over the lens, simulated based on the color input of the sensor.
How does it do with video?
It does video 4K at 30 or 24 frames per second, only for up to 15 minutes at a clip. It's good video, it's very sharp, it's very detailed. There's no in-body stabilization in this, so you want to use a stabilized lens unless you're on a tripod. There is some rolling shutter effect at 4K, but we see that in other cameras at this price range to do 4K. The weird thing is, Fujifilm has decided not to include a video button on this. So to go into video mode, let me get out of the white balance adjustment here.
Okay,
head up. So let's turn it on and off. You've got to go into your drive mode settings and go past everything else all the way down here to video. To get to video, which is a little clunky. And I think it goes to show that Fujifilm is more of a stills-oriented company. This is very, the video quality, as I said, is very crisp for 4K, very good for 1080p as well, up to 60 frames per second, with less rolling shutter, but still a little bit. It's on par with others in the class.
Now, speaking of drive, how fast a burst can you get?
8 frames per second.
Okay.
So it's with tracking. It's a really good autofocus system.
Okay. Any questions out there?
How does this compare to the iPhone 10?
How does it compare to the iPhone 10? Well, the sensor in this is big, and the sensor in the iPhone 10 is small. This is your image sensor here. So it's a 24 by 15.6 millimeter image sensor versus your 1/3-inch sensor in the iPhone, roughly. You know, you're kind of your small, less than a postage stamp size. So much less, you know.
And that means it captures massively more light,
Much more light. You don't need to use dual lenses to simulate shallow depth of field. You can just do it with a normal lens. Better high ISO. You can put an f1.4 lens on here and shoot at ISO 25-600 and get really solid results, whereas the iPhone really tops out at ISO 800 to 1600 before the images start to fall apart.
I mean, there's also just the ability to have a whole bunch of different lenses.
And we can't, you know, we should actually talk about this more often. The form factor. This in your hand feels like a camera. The iPhone is designed to be a phone.
Right.
And even with the case on it, it's very skinny. It's hard to hold as steady as you can hold something larger and heavier, even though this is only, this camera is like 12 ounces. It's very light, but it's still easier to hold steadier in your hand than an iPhone.
And I do think like one of the big advantages of having a real camera is if you want any kind of zoom lens,
right?
Any kind of optical zoom. And what's available for the Fujis in that area?
Fujifilm has a full range of lenses covering a 35 millimeter equivalent focal range of 15 at the wide end. Up to 600 at the telephoto lens.
Wow.
And plus you can put a 2x tel converter on that 100, the long zoom, so 1200 millimeter, 35 millimeter equivalent.
So you can put that on a tripod and then do wildlife photography, basically.
Yeah, I've done
two things that are very far away.
This body is not ideally suited for a long telephoto lens. I also had the 50 to 140 with me when I was reviewing this, which is you know, kind of a pro level f2.8 zoom. This doesn't have a very deep hand grip. It's very light. I prefer something like the X-T2 or even the X-T20 when using a big long lens.
Okay. We've got some more questions.
Who would you recommend this camera to? Would it be can it be easily be used by a novice photographer or someone a little bit more advanced?
I recommend it first and foremost to folks who are interested in the Fujifilm lens system. They have a very strong lineup of small compact primes that will give you excellent image quality with this. If you're a zoom person, with like the 18 to 55 millimeter zoom, it's still that's a really high quality kit zoom. I hesitate to call it a kit zoom. And one thing this camera does have is an auto switch. So if you are a serious photographer, you can set everything to manual. But if you want to hand this off to somebody for a snapshot, or if you're just, you know, a beginner, you can switch to auto and let the camera take over and go back and forth very easily with one switch.
Yeah, and as someone who is bad at photography, I find the clarity of the user interface here to be very helpful.
It is. It's not only the physical controls, but there's also the Q button on the back. Brings up just a grid of settings
right here
that you can adjust very quickly. You can change the film's emulation mode. You can change the focus area. You can change different things right from that menu. And there's a bank of custom functions, so you can set 3 different custom banks of settings and change between them quickly.
Okay. Any more questions out there? So we're giving this 4 stars, but no editor's choice. Is it just that there's a lot of competition in this area?
There is, and the Sony a6300 is real good. It's about the same price. May sell for a little bit more, but it's got the weather sealing. With caveat that the Sony needs to have full frame lenses to be fully weather sealed, so you have to have a bigger lens with it. This, I really wish they'd put the weather sealing in this body, just because Fuji has the 23, 35, and 50 millimeter f2 small prime lenses, which only sell for a couple $100 each, and they're all sealed. as well as the pro grade zooms. They have weather sealed. So if you're not looking to take this out into the wild and shoot in really torrential downpours, you'll be fine. But it doesn't have that versatility that the Sony offers you.
How much does the lack of an in-body flash matter? Should it matter at all?
It doesn't matter that much. I call it out when it doesn't have one. Once again, the Sony does, so that's just a little convenience. It's good for a little bit of fill light. If you're shooting outdoors, you want to get a snapshot of someone with the sun to their back, you can just pop that flash up and fill it in their face. And it's not like trying to light up a whole room with a little tiny flash. It's a nice to have to me.
So would you recommend that people looking at this camera also be looking at an add-on flash?
It comes with a little clip-on in the box. So beyond that, I wouldn't want to put a big flash on a small body like this.
Okay. So so I think we pretty much covered it. Yeah,
it's a really good camera. It's we get a 4-star rating. Not quite editor's choice. The editor's choice in this category is at 4.5 right now, but they're not that far apart. You know, it's a matter of, well, this one does this, and this a little bit better. But for the right photographer, someone who wants this form factor, loves this design, loves the Fuji lenses, the X-T20, which is almost identical in terms of performance and imaging quality, is another one to look at in this price range.
Okay, great. So the Fujifilm X-E3, it's $900 body only.
Yep. The kit option's $1,150 with the 23mm f2 lens.
Okay, great. 4 stars. The review is up on PCMag.com. Thank you all for watching One Cool Thing. We will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern on Facebook with another cool thing.